taken off the workbench top, and you can see there are two aprons of laminated plywood that are part of the base that were holding the top. Just some simple cleats, to attach the top, which was pretty heavy, so I just kind of rested on there. I previously milled these 2x4s on the jointer and planer, both sides of these long edges, so that they are perfectly flat. And I rested them where the tabletop will go on these two aprons, and then leveled 3 of the 4 feet with some hardwood shims, and made sure we were level in all directions and diagonally. So now we're ready to put our top down and start assembling on that top, now that we have a perfectly level surface. Alright, I've got the grid all put together and the first skin put on. I haven't put in the inserts where bench dogs might go and the vise will go yet. I'll show that once I flip this over, and we'll take a look at how that process is going to go. I did nail down, get the grid all in and nail the first skin on, and I just wanted to go through and check and see how we're doing for how flat it is. I've got my straight edge here and some feeler gauges. I've pulled out the 5/1000ths, and the most I can find is about 5/1000ths. Right, there's a dip kind of in the center. When I move this around different locations trying to find that, and I am extremely happy with that. I think that's awesome, way better than my previous top. So definitely excited to see that it's really working out so far. So I'll flip this over once the glue dries. We'll flip it over. I'll show what I'm going to do on the inside for where those dogs and vise might get screwed down, and we'll go from there. Okay, I flipped the torsion box over so that you can see the grid that I created on the inside. Couple of notes as I went through the construction of this. One, I made these little speed squares with clamping holes. I perfectly squared one corner and could use that, get in here and use that, try to square up the little pieces here. I only have one speed square, so these two that I created came in really handy. I didn't end up using the clamp holes, but they were there and definitely very handy. That being said, my interior grid is not particularly square, each of these little pieces. It doesn't seem to matter. As I mentioned, the other skin that is put on here now is very flat. I'm really happy with that, so I don't think that's going to really matter. They're not exactly square, but they're pretty good shape. Second thing is that my internal grid is about 6.5 inches square, and my brad nailer is too big to get in there. So I had a real trouble trying to toenail the pieces as I went along. Again, that doesn't seem to matter too much. It's very stiff at this point. I was able to really brad nail from once I put in the cross piece into the small pieces from this side, as I built it up. So that doesn't seem to be too much of an issue, but maybe something to think about. Make these squares a little bit bigger so you can get your brad nail in to toenail correctly into the small pieces. Previously you saw I had 2 long runners that I had leveled to create the torsion box on to have a nice level surface. I was getting a little sag across the work surface. I was using the 1/2 inch MDF, so I added 4 more cross pieces, 2x4s, that again I had jointed and planed to give more support running across. I should have just used 3/4 MDF, 3/4 plywood underneath rather than the 1/2 inch MDF. I have pieces sitting in the shop that would have helped keep everything much flatter than using 1/2 inch MDF where I got a little sag where it wasn't fully supported. Didn't seem to affect it at all. Again, I did take a block plane to the other side before I put the skin on, and just went around and felt all the little corners and knocked down anything where I could feel the difference in the joints. And again, looks like about 5/1000ths of an inch is the most dip I can find, and so I'm extremely happy with that. The next step is to put some extra support inside the grid here where I might put bench dogs or my vise. So I made a bunch of these little squares. They are 6 1/4 by 6 1/4, so they drop right in inside the grid here. So I can put 1, maybe 2 to give some more depth to the skin, where I might punch through and put in a bench dog, and definitely where the vise is going to go with some lag bolts I want some more support there. So I need to place those where I think that stuff is going to go. I'm going to glue and screw them in, allow that to dry, and then put the other skin on top here.